Imagine standing at the edge of a quiet Pennsylvania forest. Beneath your feet, there are miles of abandoned mine shafts. In the distance, tiny towns are tucked between mountains and rivers, and empty industrial buildings leave traces of strange stories that people still whisper about. On this episode of Spirits Uncorked, we're stepping into that world, but we're not going alone. We're joined by Brendan and Nic, hosts of the Ghost Furnace podcast, a show dedicated to discussing the paranormal. And while they're from Pennsylvania, they explore mysteries well beyond. They blend history, curiosity, and just the right amount of skepticism, making them the perfect addition for great conversation. So pour a glass, settle in, and let's see where this goes. Theme music. All right, welcome to Spirits Uncorked, everybody. I'm Elizabeth.
And I'm Erica.
And this is the podcast where we open a bottle of wine or pour a drink of whatever, and we choose a fun, weird, creepy, spooky topic to discuss, and we have a lot of fun doing it. But today is a little bit different because we have guests. So welcome, you guys. Welcome to Spirits Uncorked. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us. That was a wonderful intro. I felt like I was in the heart of the Allegheny National Forest listening to that. It was very appropriate.
There was only the slight tinge of frustration because I've been a phantom like 3 times over as we have tried to start recording this evening. We have been bereft with just technical problems, all of which are coming from me. So I think we're over that. And thank you so much for having us, even though it's been quite the burden thus far.
It's okay. You've been haunted. It happens.
Yes.
But we're glad that you guys are here, and we're gonna start by everyone's gonna go around and talk about what they're drinking, and Erica is gonna start us off.
Okay, I have another fancy wine. All my friends buy me wine now, so it kind of works out. This is a Cabernet Sauvignon Merlot. It's French, so it's called La Tonnelle. That's probably not how you pronounce it, but I'm drinking it out of my cup from the Tower of London. So
Excellent. All right, how's it taste?
It's okay. I can drink it. It's not the best.
It's better
that
as we
I've
go
had.
on, I hear.
Yeah, that's the goal. Yeah,
We do try to talk about wine like we know what we're talking about. Sometimes it goes well. Sometimes we're just like, we don't know.
It's really bitter.
Oh, okay. I'm drinking Phantom. I just got something that looked creepy, and it's called Phantom.
It's a creepy bottle.
I know. It's a proprietary red, and on the back it says, "Do you believe?"
Ooh.
So I thought that was good.
I really like that.
I do too.
Well, Nick was already a phantom, so it works out.
It goes well with what our theme has been thus far, which has been we've been haunted by phantom electronic issues. So, all right, who's next? Brendan, what are you drinking?
So I am drinking Jameson, which is a Irish whiskey, out of a mug that says Champ from Lake Champlain. So it's my cryptid mug. So
Very nice. I like that.
I'm a big fan of Jameson.
Okay.
My mom, last time she went back home to New Orleans, she brought me back some herb sound. So I have a bottle of herb sound. I break it out every once in a while. And so I have it here with just a little bit of a simple syrup and an ice cube. I had to put a second ice cube in for all the frustration. So it's really wonderful, but you have to really like anise. So, and every time you all laugh at me now, I'm fearing that I'm frozen up on you. But I like it every now and then. I am amazed, like a lot of older liqueurs are anise flavored. And so like in Greece, they have, I'm trying to remember the name of the drink, but it's also anise flavored. And I think it's something of an acquired, that licorice root sort of thing is something of an acquired taste. But so many old drinks have that flavor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like licorice, sassafras, horehound, all those things, sarsaparillas. Yeah,
But it's pretty strong. It's pretty strong. So this, the last time we got to get, yeah, it's 100 proof. It's 50%
wow.
alcohol by volume. The last time, and this will be fun.
that'll do it.
The last time we got together and you both came on to our show, I had drank about a quarter of a bottle of what was left from my Christmas wine that I needed for my roast, my dog. And I think by the end of our conversation, I was revealing the secrets of the universe and my social security number to you at some point. So this could only be fun, you know.
Yeah.
Right.
We've had a couple episodes where we've gone through, well, we forgot to record, so we had to redo the whole episode. And I think I had like definitely the whole bottle, and we were like toasted by the time we were done.
Memorable episode.
I don't even know what. Yeah, I don't even know what we were talking about. by
I
the end
don't
of
remember
it.
either. I don't think I ever listened to it because I was scared.
I want to know the number.
Yeah.
I remember
I bet
which
it was
one
a
it
fun
was.
episode.
It was in season one.
fun.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
By the end of
Yeah.
it, we were talking about Garfield episodes. So that's what
Oh
we were-
yeah.
You know, sometimes
It's brilliant.
and it's funny how like those tangents seem so relevant at the time, and then you
was
listen back to
relevant,
them and you're
yeah.
like, wow,
It was very
we really took
important.
a few leaps to
Yeah.
get there in logic. But you know,
Right.
that's part of the fun. So.
Right. Yeah. Well, thank you guys for being here. Erica and I were guests on your podcast not too long ago, and we had a great time. And so we thought it would be fun to have you guys on our show because we talked about a lot of stuff, but we didn't really get to talk about, we wanted to talk about some regional Pennsylvania stuff, which you guys are probably sick of talking about, but
No.
we've not talked about on our show.
Yeah.
But it would be great for our audience to kind of, get to know you guys a little bit. And so maybe you could kind of tell a little bit about your podcast, The Ghost Furnace, and, how long have you guys been doing it? The name, I'm curious about the name. Where did that come from?
Okay, so why the Ghost Furnace? So it's actually our friend Mike came up to us and had asked us to do something because he had always wanted to. At that time, we were doing something called Dr. Pennsylvania, where I would stay up till 3, 4 in the morning and research a topic, and then like the next night record it, and Brendan would do all this music and all the editing. Well, when Mike approached us, we had already been at that for about 8 years, I want to say. But why the name was because one of the things, you mentioned the mining, you mentioned the forests in your intro there. There are several early industries in America, and they're all focused in Pennsylvania largely when we think of the North. And that is the lumber, the coal. But before that, there are tanneries, and then there is the iron furnaces. And all through this region in particular, there are iron furnaces. They are these strange pyramid-like structures that you will be walking in the middle of the woods and you will stumble across this bizarre stone pyramid. And it's an old iron furnace from the early days. So we're talking pre-Civil War. Some of them go back, I think, to the early 18th century. Some of them are in better condition than others. We have some photos. But if you drive in through the woods, many places around here, you'll see something Furnace Road. I live within 3 miles of a maple furnace road. There are towns by the name of Furnace this and Furnace that. Those were all developed around these furnaces, and they are a lesser known but no less iconic structure. They are not unique to Pennsylvania, but I feel like we certainly have our fair share of them. And they're kind of beautiful. They're a reminder to us that we're only borrowing a place. Yeah, that's why.
That's really cool.
Yeah, and even like symbolically, I know like we kind of like the idea of like the furnace is taking the natural resources and turning them into like an export, something that was going to be used all over the country and all over the world. And I kind of like the idea of people visiting these things now, except where they were making, turning coke into iron. Now, they're turning stories into ghosts, basically. Yeah, it because they really do, like Nick said, they kind of create their own lore in the area, because a lot of people that aren't familiar with local history just wonder why there's, decrepit pyramids in the middle of the woods, and it's just kind of spooky. And we do incorporate a lot of the history into our podcast. That's one thing that I know. I think that's why we clicked with both of you so well the first time we talked, is a lot of times when you're talking about whether it's the paranormal or just strange history or true crime or anything culturally related, there's so much like legitimate history that feeds into these stories and a lot of these ideas that you really can't separate.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that Nick, myself, and our good friend Mike, when we first started, that's kind of the baseline that we kind of started with, is like, how does all this stuff, regardless of what actually happened in some of these stories, or regardless of what's real or what's not, it's like, why are people telling these stories? Why are people interested in this? What does this say about us?
Mm-hmm. What do you think that is? What does it say about people?
So, I think people have a natural curiosity when it comes to like folklore and the paranormal, because it's like it's the other. It's just on the fringes. It's the dusk. It is the edge of the light before the darkness. So I think there's just a natural affinity that people have, and I think that where history really kind of ties into that is almost any weird thing out there isn't new. It's been talked about, it's been milled over, there's been stories told about it for a long time. And whenever we talk about, like Nick mentioned, a lot of these kind of natural areas, you don't just have like current ghost stories about a place. There's generational stories, whether you have a certain road that is quote unquote haunted. That haunting changes depending on what generation is experiencing the place. Mm-hmm. And there's some cultural identity tied up with that.
I see what you're saying, Brendan, and I also agree to some extent. I think I'm going to be more grounded in saying that I think we are all trying to belong. We are all trying to find tribes, overlapping tribes and whatnot, and we are all trying to like belong to a place, most of us. And I think the collecting of stories is wrapping a place around yourself a little bit. And I think a lot of people can be guarded about these stories and whatnot, and it's one of those ways of testing like who's in the tribe.
I would agree with both of those.
Yeah, I do too. I am kind of curious, like in Pennsylvania, are there any specific places that you guys have gone to that you have like a really good story?
Oh, I'm going to say one that I know, Brendan, you're going to agree with, and I know you've got another place, but I'm chomping at the bit because
go for it.
I will. We tried to record there, and some weird things happened. Mm-hmm. Again, nothing really crazy, but the typical like things died. I mean, like electronics.
So
not
kind of like exactly what's happening. What's happening to you right now?
Yeah,
precisely. So there's something of when we were in high school, I was over at a friend's and he had heard about the cemetery on a TV show. I had never heard of this cemetery before, but we had to find it because the show said it was the most haunted place they had ever been to. So this would have been around 2001, I want to say. I'm going to abstain from saying the name of the cemetery right now because it has been vandalized. It's gotten more well-known. I have never found what TV show it was on, so I don't know if that was just something our friend Corey dreamt up. But it had so many stories around it. Part of the township was the family whose cemetery it is. It was a family plot. They had come over from Switzerland in the late 18th century, and they had established the township. It was part of the property that they had acquired through trapping prowess. And there were so many stories about the place, but the craziest thing was that, some of the stories were that people's cars would die, and you're like a couple miles from a house. We had gone out there one night and nothing weird happened, but we get back into the car and the little thermometer temperature gauge thing says that it's 20 degrees cooler than when we got there. By the time we get back to the road, it's back up to 70. One night, I was not there. I was out running in the middle of the night like a completely normal person. But my friends came back. I was sitting in the basement, and our friends Brandon and Art and Corey, they had been out there. It was a dark night. They had their car turned so that the headlights shone at the cemetery, which is a walled sandstone structure. They stepped in to the walled structure after a while, and at one point, Art bumped into something, and something fell, and the wind started picking up. And they flicked a lighter, and they realized he had knocked over one of the gravestones, completely unintentionally doing so.
Oh my god!
But they heard, right? They heard things. They heard the leaves rustling. They heard stuff coming from the hill, and they were freaked out. And these are not guys that they knew the woods. Like we would sleep in the woods regularly during the summer months, but they're freaked out because it had been a still night. There's nothing normal about this. They jump the wall, they get out, they come back. It's a 20-minute drive back to where I was living at the time. They're still freaked out. They were real shook up, and some of the stories surrounding the cemetery was that because the patriarch of the family was this hunter trapper, he had these dogs, and there are many stories of dogs will chase people from the property. That is one of the places, I will say it is around Lake Arthur, Moraine State Park. I'll say that much. And that's definitely one of the places that a lot of people have said was haunted. There's another cemetery down the road from me that is a mass grave from the Spanish flu epidemic. There are no stories about it being haunted that I've ever heard.
Right. Well, and we've even, like, I do want to say a few things about the cemetery you just mentioned, Nick, but even with the mass grave that you're just saying, we went there and recorded an episode years and years ago, so we're like, oh, this is going to be super spooky. We got there, and it was the most chill feeling place you've ever been. Like, zero bad vibes at all. And that's why with this other cemetery that Nick is talking about, we've had weird things happen there over the years. We, like you mentioned, we tried to record there a few months ago, maybe even a year ago now. And I use a Zoom recorder for field work and everything. And I'm an audio engineer. I've been doing this for years and years and years. I've never had a Zoom recorder go from full power to just dying like that halfway through us chatting. So that was like really, really strange. And we've had a few other things happen there. The last time I was there to actually take some photos, and back right away from the cemetery, I saw hanging in a tree a glove, like that was strung up with like fishing wire, like almost like a spider web kind of thing. And it was very purposely put there. I didn't look inside it because I know better. But this is one of those places where people come and do ritual magic. And not to say like how legitimate or unlegitimate that is, but the place has been known for that over the years. So like a lot of other states, Pennsylvania suffered from the satanic panic like everywhere else did back in the 80s and 90s. But this is one of those places that I think probably got a bad rap because of that. But then people start going there, because they hear it's haunted, and suddenly something that maybe had no activity now has activity because people are bringing it there with them. So, yeah, there's quite a few places out here that have just a very... their history is kind of a roller coaster in a lot of ways.
So when you guys are doing your, like planning your podcast episodes, or when you're just like doing investigations, what kind of grabs your attention more? Is it things like haunted cemeteries? Is it things like true crime? You have a cryptid mug, so is it cryptids? What is it that like strikes your interest the most, and you like, I want to investigate that more? What is it like the most thing that really gets your attention that you really want to like dive into?
So I think for me, it's like the weirder the better. So one of the people who we talk about a lot on this podcast, and if anyone out there is interested in Pennsylvania weird stuff, then folks know about the name Stan Gordon. Stan Gordon is a researcher that started back in the 70s with a supposed UFO crash in a place called Kecksburg, Pennsylvania, right outside of Pittsburgh. And he was one of the first authors that I started reading seriously because he talks a lot about this flap in the 70s in Fayette County that has to deal with Bigfoot and UFOs overlapping. Which, yeah, right. Which most people think like, oh, UFOs and Bigfoot, not the same thing. And I started reading because I'm like, oh, this is going to be a fun read, you know. Then as you start looking at it more and more, you're like, listen, I know that correlation does not imply causation, but you start seeing all this corollary evidence, and not that I necessarily believe that you know Bigfoot is coming out of UFOs or anything, but that kind of taught me to just like go into everything with an open mind. And I think that after you gather enough stories, you start kind of like not so much caring about like what is quote unquote actually going on, but like how it affects people. So when the stories that really grab me are the ones where people seem to be either legitimately affected by something that happened to them, you know, regardless of what it was, or if a story is just really weird, like literally the weirder the better. Not saying that someone seeing the ghost of a previous tenant in a house isn't strange. Like, of course, it's still strange. But usually, the weirder the better for me.
Go ahead,
and
Nick.
I'll say our friend Mike had brought me on because he was talking to Brendan and he called me up and he's like, "Listen, you don't believe in anything, so you'll be great." And well, that's not entirely true, but it's I love the histories. I love the stories. Brendan likes the weirder things than I do. I'll go along with him because it's fun. I like the classic ghost stuff. I do. I like the histories. A lot of the cryptid stuff is just when people like I said something like, "Oh, like Bigfoot clearly is coming from the deep ocean," and Brendan goes, "Well, actually, there's a large contingent of aquatic Bigfoot believers." I'm like, this is just a bridge too far for me.
It's a thing.
But yeah, funny enough, a lot of the cryptids that are associated with Pennsylvania, though, tend to be more of the tall-tailed joke variety. In fact, funny thing, and I don't know if I told you this, Brendan, I was at a conference for work, and just for fun, they were having little trivia things in between speakers, and they had one about what is a squonk? And where is Squonk Fest located? And the squonk is something that's kind of gotten outside of Pennsylvania a little bit, but this is probably one of the better ones. And it was actually initially documented as a tall tale by a forester in Minnesota in 1910. And so the squonk is just essentially this ugly, ugly creature that is so distraught from its lack of aesthetics that it will cry itself, and eventually it cries so much that it just dissolves itself like so much cardboard, and it's gone, and that's the squonk. And
I don't think I've seen that.
I literally was looking up stuff in Pennsylvania, and I saw squonk, and I was like, I'm going to ask him what this is, so I'm glad you just volunteered the information.
I'm sorry I beat you to the punch. If you ever want to go to Squonk Fest, it is in Johnstown.
I have a question, since we're talking about Squonk Fest and things like that. This is something that Erica and I, we've brought it up a lot since one of the things that I do is I do ghost tours on Lake Lanier. So what are the two of your thoughts about haunted tourism, ghost tourism, and what is the line between taking advantage of or exploitation of certain things? What do you have thoughts about that, or do you think it's a smart, like local economy move to like take a regional story and make it your own and make a festival out of it, or do you think it's exploiting a past tragedy to make it a thing, etc.? Okay, Nick, you're raising your hand. Very good manners.
I do want Brendan to field this first, so I don't monopolize things. But I think, with regard to Pennsylvania specifically, I think we need to think about this in terms of Gettysburg specifically, because if there's any place that has routine ghost tours, it's that town. As far as your question, I'll let Brendan field that.
So I think there's There's a lot to unpack. We could do a whole episode probably just on that
Oh, I
question,
know.
Elizabeth.
We talk about it all the time.
Right, and rightfully so, because I think it's important, because I think a lot of times people like leave ethics on the side here when talking about a lot of these things, because it seems like it's just fun, you know? And it is fun. It can be really interesting, but also there's other considerations. Gettysburg is a really interesting example that Nic brought up. And I think you could probably look at that and answer this question a few different ways. One of the things that I think is interesting from a historic standpoint, I guess, is that part of me wants to be like, listen, if people are getting into history and people are learning, then it's a net gain. You know, if someone wants to do a walking tour around Gettysburg and that helps them understand like where Reynolds died, where the fish hook was, then it's like, cool. This is helping people, and it is bringing the knowledge base up. So I think for a lot of like the actual history in these areas, and you probably see this in Charleston, you probably see this, in Seattle, you probably see it in San Francisco, like any place that like has a big tourism industry and has a really wild haunted history. I think if people are learning about stuff, it's probably a good thing, because otherwise they probably wouldn't have learned about it. And it's a really entertaining venue to do it in, you know, especially with like walking tours and stuff like that. I think where things get conflated is when there's a little more theater and a little less history. And not to say, and again, we're going to have Susan Fair on our show in a few weeks who does ghost tours. So I'm going to ask her the same question, Elizabeth. I think it's a wonderful question. I think you often get people choosing to go with the better story rather than question history. And I think that's where we end up with problems with Gettysburg. And Nic, I'll let you chime in here a second, but I want to talk about the bridges. So I think an excellent example are the bridges of Gettysburg that are supposed to be haunted. There are two. One is called Sachs Bridge, and one is called the Eisenhower Bridge. It's right near the President Eisenhower's farm. And there's a ton of folklore, both like paranormal folklore associated with these bridges, saying that, troops were hanged from them as the Confederacy was retreating from the area and everything. There's all this stuff that's kind of associated with it that isn't true. Like if you talk to actual historians, they're like, none of these stories actually match up. But the same ghost groups are there literally every night saying that alongside of actual history. And I think that, is that necessarily a problem? It's not the biggest problem we have in the world right now, obviously. But I think that it makes people conflate things. And I know when we had both of you on our show, I know Nic used my quote of reality is an agreement that we have. And I think that when people start choosing the better story over what actually happened, that turns into a habit over time. And I don't think that is a habit that benefits us long term. So that's my concise answer.
And I couldn't agree more with your statement, Brendan, about people choosing the better story over the history. And I've been confronted with that multiple times. I know when we had our last conversation together, one of the things that I had said that we all talked about after the fact too is that we have a duty to tell the story, to tell the history. There was a movie theater in our town. There still is. There was then too. It was built in 1914, but it had been derelict through most of our adolescence. And as they were reinvesting in it and revamping in it, and they did a wonderful job. But they had at our high school like a story competition where you would write a ghost story about the old Strand building. And I got involved in that because, heck yeah, I love stories. Right. I love ghosts. I love history. I had broken into that movie theater many times as a ne'er-do-well child.
There more than once.
I felt like I had more hands-on experience inside the building than a lot of our peers. But what really bothered me was, they had that. And then a few months later, I was reading in the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, and they were talking about the ghost story as though it was a historical thing. And to me, that was so crass that it just put a bad taste in my mouth. And I was thinking, Brendan, too, to what you said about, like, if a ghost story is something that helps get somebody interested in the history of a place, that's cool because those are stories that are organic and that do come out about through time and through tragedy. But there is like a way in which it can be presented where that becomes really patronizing as well. So there's this that balance between being patronizing and just being crass. That it's how do you walk that? And I think, as with everything, I do believe people can tell when you are being sincere. I sincerely love a lot of stories in which I do not believe are true, but I know that they're historical fictions in a way, and it's a way because so many of us that are so fascinated by that time and place in this space, we want to have some way in which we could touch it. And I think to some part, embracing these stories is a way of like embracing a friend.
Well, I'll offer another perspective, and that's like a lot of the folklore, like they originate by being cautionary tales, like in Mexico, like La Llorona. That was it really originated from being a cautionary tale, like for the children not to get too close to the water or you're drowned. Well, like when the woman drowned the children. And
there's
so
the classic story of the lover's lane and the man with the hook. And that was to prevent kids from going out and necking out in the wilderness and whatnot.
And so that was leaning towards the more scandalous version of the tale. And there's another one that I'm thinking of, and I just tried to Google it, but now I can't remember. But maybe you guys will know where it is. It's somewhere in the South, and it took place on a railroad track, and it was like red eyes, and this really did happen, where the teens did really go up on an abandoned railroad track, and they really
the goat man.
The goat man. Yes. And now, but there really is a festival there, I think, about the goat man. And so, like, something happened that now it really is a cautionary tale, but also that local region took that story and they made it their own. So it's a cautionary tale, but it's also something like the local region took it, and it's something to like help the local economy, and now like the local businesses benefit from that economy, etc. So it's like it gets really complicated too.
You brought up the goat man story, Elizabeth. Like, that's a place that has taken that story and they ran with it and everything. But that's a real weird thing for me, considering like a girl actually died. Like that's like, if that doesn't make them feel weird, maybe it's fine. It would make me feel weird. And
I get that.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, Nick, with like the folklore and everything, and this gets back to like the storytelling, where it's not even just paranormal stuff; it can be regular stuff, and that's why I think these things bleed into other parts of society. Up here in Pennsylvania, we have a very complicated history with slavery, especially in the south central part of the state. That being said, over here in the western side, basically every old church or building that has any sort of a tunnel anywhere near it, everyone just says was part of the Underground Railroad. And a lot of historians will say like that's not the case. So like when that did happen, great. But what that does is it conditions people just to think the best about history, rather than ask like, oh, is there any evidence about this? What stories are associated with it? Because when you do find cool stuff, we just on the same topic, you just found out there's a enslaved person graveyard up in Stoneborough that I just found out about, Nick, that I'm going to go try and check out. So like there are really cool stories out there, but unless you like start asking, you're not going to find them.
Well, I'm not going to say it makes us think the best about. I think it just distorts the historical.
Yeah,
record.
That's a good way of putting it. Yeah,
because we do see people who are always eager to believe the worst stories as well.
Right. That's a good point.
But I agree, because I know that claim has been made about a lot of churches, and again, the numbers just aren't there. Like a trust but verify.
Yeah, agreed.
So would you guys say that is like history, is that kind of the big motivation for your podcast storytelling? Because like I would say for Erica and I obviously we're sisters, so we've got a lot of shared family history, and sisterly bond would probably be our big inspiration. So what is the big inspiration for your guys' like storytelling and podcasting? Would you say it would be history, or like people study, or
people study?
I'll say that the people study, the study of the people. But
study of the people.
I would say that the first, that makes it sociology. They're all ologies. The thing that got me talking and thinking about recording things with initially with the Dr. PA thing was that I was spending tons of time by myself in a vehicle, and I was in a research grant, and I was driving all around Pennsylvania. And William Least Heat Moon wrote in Blue Highways, which is a seminal book in my life, that time alone makes one very sociable. And I would go into diners, and I would go into senior centers because I would be invited from the diner to the senior center. I would hear stories, and I would hear stories of places, or I would drive into towns I'd never been before, and I would look at them and I'd be like, gosh, at one point you can just see like there was something here. Why are these magnificent painted lady houses in the middle of this forest? And then you just it brings it all back. Like you only borrow a place, and this place was somewhere very different, And the stories that they have are just it really engaged me. So it was the history, and it was the people study. Like, I'm not joking. It really was just and I've said this. I say this to my closest friends. Like every time I have to go to Harrisburg for work, which is fairly regularly, I and a friend I work with, we always schedule a dinner, and we invite random people we work with that we don't see, that are in totally different areas of the Commonwealth. We're all coming together for one thing, and we will never invite there never can be more than 6 people at a table. I really like people, but I find that people are best experienced in small parties. Otherwise, it's like presiding over a hostage situation.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I'm more of a one-on-one person.
No, absolutely. And I think that connection is really what motivates me as well, because all like the best things in my life when it comes to like art and music and photography and the paranormal, I've found that whenever you can just connect with people, and anytime you can get people talking about what they're experiencing or what they're excited about, those end up usually being my people, because that's what people are passionate about, and you end up finding all these other things that like connect you, or things that you find that you have in common and everything. And even if it starts as just like, oh, we both have a weird ghost story, or a story about seeing a light in the sky kind of thing.
Right.
And I feel like people who are, and this is a very broad generalization, obviously, but I feel like a lot of people who are into the paranormal are at least asking questions about the world around them. And I feel like people that are asking questions about the world around them are typically also asking questions about themselves. And I think folks that are generally self-reflective are generally the kind of people that I like to be around and end up making those connections with. So, and that's kind of why I said earlier, like, I almost don't mind what's real or what's not with a lot of these stories. I just want to hear like how they affected people. And that's usually what's the most interesting part. Because when we were growing up, I'm sure you all had the same experience. People will tell you stories sometimes, and you're like, I don't think that probably actually happened. But, like, I'm excited that you had an experience and are willing to share that with me. Like, that's that's something, right?
For them, it was some kind of experience.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like, I don't know what they saw, but I'm glad that you had it, and you're telling me, you're willing to confide in me with a story, like this. And so I think that's where a lot of my motivation comes from, because, like, again, like the conversations that just we've had, I've had so many wonderful conversations with people who I would have never met otherwise, that I am like endlessly thankful for. So whatever I need to do to keep those things coming into my life, I'm going to keep doing.
Yeah. So I'm just curious, like, if each of you could solve one mystery, you could have all the answers, like right now, all the answers to
good
one
question.
mystery. What would it be? All the answers here on a platter.
I'm going to say a couple things about this, but I'm going to preface it by remind us all, including myself, that this is 50% by volume. So whatever I say here,
that's right. You are. Yeah. I don't know how you're still upright. Good for you.
Thank you, House of Zach. Here's the problem. Are you asking if I would want to know the answers for personal reasons? Because my thing is like, if I finally was able to say, no, there is unequivocally no Bigfoot, never has been, never was, nobody, you're never going to satisfy everybody with no matter how much information you have, because there's a romance to mystery. There's a part of us that doesn't want a thing solved. I think if I don't think I'm immune to that, even though I would consider myself an inherently skeptical person. It's like, would you want to really know when your last day on Earth was going to be? How would that affect the way you conduct yourself from one day to the next? Having said all of that, I guess I want to know who the Cleveland torso murderer was, and were they also the same people that was dumping bodies about 20 miles down the road in Newcastle?
That's what I was going to say. I was going to say, okay, if you don't want to know if there's aliens, if there's Bigfoot, then who do you want to know who murdered somebody? Because we know someone murdered somebody.
I thought about Jack the Ripper. But I kind of don't care anymore, because it was really awful. There's nothing resembling justice is achievable at this time. You know? So it's like, I just want some personal satisfaction. I just want to know if the Cleveland torso murders, or if the Newcastle torso killer and the Cleveland axe murderer are the same, are one and the same. Elliot Ness thought they were.
He did.
Okay, Brendan.
So, like, again, I'm going to have to, like, preface this by, like... Like,
I feel like aliens is a pretty big one. Everybody wants to know aliens, yes or no. It seems like
here's the thing: is like
yes.
You don't know.
That's because you don't know, and that's there's almost no way to answer the question where it's going to be satisfying, because if you just say like okay, what are UFOs? UFOs are probably a bunch of different things. It's probably not just one thing. You know, if we know that aliens exist, then it's like, well, does that mean that they're in those ships? Does it mean they're ships? Are they just on another planet already?
I'd probably just stop paying taxes. I mean,
right at that point,
why are we doing that?
Why are we doing that anyway? Yeah.
Right. We should let's. I think we can all agree on that.
I didn't know Lysander Spooner was joining the conversation, but here we are.
Right. I think that like I would have to go with something romantic again, like you're saying, Nick, because like if someone wants to answer ghosts, it's like I don't think ghosts have any real correlation with the afterlife. So if you find out the ghosts aren't real, I don't know if that means anything about the afterlife necessarily. People say like, oh, Bigfoot isn't real. People are still seeing something in the woods. So what the heck are they seeing if it's not Bigfoot? You know. So I think answering any of those questions just leads to more questions. That's why I would just like to know who else was on the grassy knoll. I think. I think that's my big thing.
Okay.
Only
LBJ's
because,
cousin.
Yeah, maybe there's a lot of theories out there, but that's one of those ones where it's just like I think it would be satisfying to like get just one big conspiracy answered. You know.
That's a good one though too, because I feel like all these years and all this reluctance for full exposure, even though I buy a lot of the official story, I definitely see a reality in which Oswald acted alone. There's just a lot of weird stuff, and I think when you look at a lot of the stuff that came out with like the Pentagon Papers and everything, I think we live in a totally different world now where we're like, yeah, well, we know what Oliver North was up to. We know, you know, what, oh my gosh, who was the guy, Robert McNamara was up to during the 70s and 60s. It's just like, They're definitely, obviously, there has to be more to it, or why would they still be redacting things?
The truth is almost always legitimately stranger than fiction, and I think that, like, as much as that's just like a platitude, I think it's really true. Every time we get we kind of learn something that shifts some sort of our paradigm, it ends up just like rattling things, and it's never the thing you think, you know? Mm-hmm. It's always something out of left field. And again, that's the stuff that I would probably ask one of those questions, I think, if I had the chance.
Okay, so the listeners listening on Spotify, weigh in. What is your mystery that you want answered? The one mystery that you want answered. We want to know. Tell us.
Do you have one?
I was about to ask, yeah.
Yeah.
I think I want to know the alien. I don't know. I think I'd want to know the alien thing. Aliens.
All right.
I want to know.
Basic.
I don't care. I'm basic.
But just confirmation would be nice. Like, just
I just want to make a point. I am basic. I live in the suburbs. I'm married and I have 2 kids. I have blonde hair. What do you want from me? I am basic. I want to know if there's aliens.
Does that include like whether they have visited, which ones have visited, which ones are in the neighborhood but have chosen to avoid us, how many, like the sheer, because just again, a numbers game.
Those are follow-up questions. I just want the big yes or no. Those just are follow. No. If I get follow-ups, I will get follow-ups.
I have lots of follow-up questions either way.
Erica, what about you?
All right. I think that I went down a rabbit hole yesterday, like pretty far, and I was watching all these videos about these giant rocks that are like in the shape of people, and they're like petrified people, and they're giants actually, and I didn't realize how many there were. So I feel like now I'll send you the
Are you talking about Easter Island?
I love Easter Island too, but this is like all over the world.
How are we related?
There's a lot of Erica. We'll have to talk about this.
I don't even know what Erica's. Let Erica finish. I don't even know what her question is.
Okay. Like I don't even know where they're at, but they're like there was a whole bunch.
What's the question? Are there rock people? I don't understand.
Are they giants? And they've just become petrified because they look like people, or like
that's your one
trees.
Question to the universe.
Well, it is right now. It might change next week.
The wine was bitter at first.
But actually, I was, because it does kind of go hand in hand with Easter Island, and I would love to know what happened and like what's the deal, you know, just the whole thing. I want to watch it like a movie. What happened?
Erica wants an answer to what's the deal.
What's the deal?
What's the deal? Hey, what's the big deal?
Yeah.
Okay, Erica's in charge of our segment that we always end with called Would You Rather?
Ooh.
All right. Let's see here.
She always comes up with good ones, and I come up with shitty ones.
Yeah.
Because, as we've already said, I'm basic.
Okay. Well, this one's like pretty basic, but I think it's a good question.
Basic is dependable.
I'm very dependable.
Would you rather see ghosts everywhere you go, or you can only hear them whisper, you just never see them?
No, that was a bad one. Skip to the next one.
What?
Do one about Pennsylvania.
I just did like a general Pennsylvania. Okay, here. I don't know what this is though, so you guys are gonna have to tell us. Okay,
I'm so
would
excited.
you rather?
I hope it's about Scrapple.
I don't know what that is.
Tell us what Scrapple is.
All right. Scrapple is you're in Georgia, so you've encountered chitlins, right? Scrapple is kind of like pork chitlins. No, you're looking at, am I freezing, or are you just not aware of chitlins? Okay.
I don't know what you're saying.
I am from the Deep South originally, and I have family there. This is the thing. But
just remember, I'm not from here. I'm not from here.
I know, but you have been there. You have been there. Scrapple is like a pig intestine that is fried up with cornmeal.
Ew.
I know. Your face is a perfect, completely understandable. I'm not the biggest fan. You ever have country gravy, like on biscuit?
Yes.
Scrapple
Yeah.
tastes like country gravy. Some people put apple butter on it. I don't understand. I've spread it on toast. I thought it was perfectly fine. The
Okay.
end. So is your question about Scrapple?
No, it's not. It's not. Back to the original question that I still haven't read yet. But I don't know what this is. An albitwitch.
Yes.
Albitwitch.
Yeah.
What is that?
What's the question?
Okay.
What's the would you rather question?
Well, we need to know what that is before
So
we
an
can.
albitwitch.
Would you rather Albert Witch?
Albitwitch. So an albitwitch is a very small Bigfoot that's localized to the Chickies Rock area it's around like York County. Basically, they're these little Bigfoot that would apparently steal apples. Apparently, albitwitch is like this bastardization of like German. Was it like Abbot Elf, basically, or something?
Apfel, but there's so many dialects, and Deutsch, Pennsylvania Deutsch came over years and years ago.
Right. So they're little mischievous Bigfoot, basically. They throw apples at people. They're cute.
Okay. Okay. Well, I guess then this might be an easy question. Would you rather run into an albitwitch in the woods or hear the crying of a squonk following you at night?
Albert Witch.
I mean, if they're
I
cute.
can believe in. Right, you just want to hug them. And a squonk by definition is not cute, but it's also much more difficult for me to believe in a squonk because that was just a tall tale created by woodsmen. So Albert Witch.
Because it's one of those things where albitwitches, when for a long time, they were considered folklore, just like Nick was saying with the kind of like the PA lumber region tall tales. But there are historic accounts of albitwitches. And especially in the last, I'd say maybe 7-8 years, there's actually been an uptick in reported sightings of them in and around this Chickies Rock area. So kind of leads to the question where it's like, is there something out there? Is there not something out there? But either way, I would certainly rather run into an albitwitch than a squonk. I think just because like the squonk, like that's just so sad. I don't like the idea of a sad cryptid. For some reason, the mischievous ones. I don't know. I'm too like empathetic. Yeah.
Okay. This one's just really creepy.
Do gooder, Erica.
Do gooder.
Oh my God. Would you rather see a face in the dark that
So
I want it to disappear?
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I
don't
think
want
the
to see it.
disappearing. Yeah, I would agree with both of you. I think the disappearing would be significantly easier to deal with. I think that if you were just like staring at something or just like going about your day,
Yeah.
and stuff showed up, that'd be worse. Like, do you remember there's a scene in The Exorcist where just like that demon face like flashes on like the range hood? No thanks. Like none of that.
They
None
got to
of
get
that.
you somehow.
Yeah, that's just no.
Now, how quick is the fade in? Is it actually fade into being? How close is it to my face?
Pretty
Can you
close.
talk to it? If you can talk
Like
to
this
it,
is
like,
actually your friend,
That's true,
and you hang out together.
You wouldn't ever be alone. But here's the other problem: is like every time you stare, every time your face is still for a minute, that would make driving impossible.
I wonder if your brain.
Disappearing.
I wonder if your brain would eventually just like phase it out like floaters in your eyes.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. Like eventually
Like
your
you
brain
got
just
bad
like,
astigmatism.
Yeah.
I got face like floaters popping by.
Yeah, that'd be awful.
well, thank you guys for being on Spirits Uncorked. We've had a wonderful time, and hopefully we can do this again sometime.
Yes.
Did you
Love
finish
to.
your 100 proof?
It's all gone. It is all gone. I mean, you saw where I started.
You're
I'm
going to
gonna
sleep
sleep
great
so good.
tonight.
Yeah.
It's gonna be amazing.
We'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Thank you.
Goodbye.